Palestinian people. Let's bring in Rami Khouri. He's a distinguished public policy fellow at the American University of Beirut. He joins us live from Boston. Rami, always good to have you here. Look, there's already this war of narratives in this conflict. Ever since the US announced its unwavering support for Israel, we've heard Israeli officials declare Palestinians as human animals and proclaimed their intentions to commit crimes against humanity. How worrying is this narrative?
It is worrying. It's been going on for many, many years. It's been one of the success stories of the Zionist Israeli public relations and lobbying campaigns in the United States across all society, and the media and the movies, education, politics. The result is that the American president, the strongest man in the country who influences the country more than anybody else probably, has come out in excessive support of anything that Israel wants. It's quite extraordinary, the intensity and the scope of what Biden said, and his passion, as he said it, was also quite unusual for him. And he basically continued the process that has been going on for decades, since the 1967 war, of supporting Israel militarily and economically and protecting it diplomatically at the UN and at the ICC and anywhere where Israel may be held accountable. The US makes sure that doesn't happen.
Okay.
The danger here...
Rami, let me just jump in here because we're pushed for time. I mean, how is this war and the narrative playing out in the US media, particularly as we are already in the 2024 election cycle and President Biden has an important domestic audience to play to?
It plays out very clearly by having very, very few authentic Palestinian voices, a torrent of Israeli voices, officials, former ambassadors, current officials, and an intense focus in the mainstream media, television particularly, on the families in Israel who have been worrying about their children who they can't find. They don't know if they're dead or if they've been taken prisoner. And there's these really tear-jerking short stories in the TV about these families, and they're very powerful. And they now do them 5, 6, 7 times a day. You see them almost on every American TV station. You don't see the equivalent about Palestinians. And also, you know, we know the names of the Israelis. We know the families in their living rooms, but we do not know anything. All we know about Gaza is that Israelis are bombing it in self-defense. And this has become a very clear pattern that permeates not just the media, but also the public political sphere at the national level, where Israel concentrates its lobbying and its pressure campaigns, which have succeeded. And the last point now is that the Israelis, with complicity by many Americans, are trying to silence the voices of Palestinians or pro-Palestinian progressive Americans in universities and labor unions and media and other places. And this is now being fought out in the courts.
Rami, we know the US government is a signatory to both the Geneva Conventions and the Genocide Convention, which means it has obligations under international law to prevent war crimes. Is this a responsibility that the US is failing to shoulder, do you think?
Yes, the U.S. and many other countries, Great Britain and many other Western countries, there's two things here. You have these individuals who are politicians, and politicians say whatever they need to say to gain the public support or financial backing of donors or votes at that moment. And the second point is that these are, especially when you look at the US, the UK, and some other countries, these are colonial powers. It's not the old-style colonialism of the 19th century. It's colonialism where these countries feel that what they say, how they act, how they dress, how they behave, their values should be the ones that all the world follows. And they set the rules, and everybody else should follow. They can break the rules if they want, but nobody else should break them.
Rami, just a final quick thought to you. I mean, many experts say this is not a conflict that has a military solution. And in terms of preventing further loss of Israeli and Palestinian lives, the way forward is to address the historical source of this, and that the US must end what many see as complicity in Israeli apartheid and the dehumanization of the Palestinians. So what is the way forward? Just briefly, Rami.
there has to be a buildup of demand to do this within the United States. And I've experienced this myself over the last five decades that I've been in and out of the U.S. And the anti-Vietnam War movement, the environmental movement, the women's rights movement, the civil rights movement, these took years and years and years to develop enough popular mobilization and support to force the national leaders in Washington to change their policy. Apartheid, the Americans didn't want to change that, but they were forced to, in the end, to go against apartheid in South Africa. So it'll take time.
Rami Khouri, many thanks for your thoughts and your analysis, Rami. Thank you very much indeed. Still ahead on Al Jazeera, we'll bring